General Counsel, is there a quorum?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Good morning. I'm Ann Valentine, designee for Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, calling to order the October 2024 meeting of the IHCDA Board of Directors here at the IHCDA offices. We are meeting pursuant to this board's policy for participation by members of the IHCDA Board of Directors in board meetings by simultaneous electronic communication. This means that only 3 members must be physically present at the site of the meeting, and the remaining members may call in. There will be an audio feed for the general public so that members of the public can listen to the meeting, and there will be a link to a video recording posted on IHCDA's website next month. At the time the motions are being made, each board member that makes a motion must state his or her first and last name for the record. The votes will then be tallied by roll call. I will now take a roll call of the board members to confirm members who are present and their location. Ann Valentine, designee for Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, present in the room. Mark Pascarella, designee for State Public Finance Director Dan Hughey.
Present and in the room.
Abby Reddy, designee for Treasurer of State Daniel Elliott. Board Member G. Michael Shopmeyer. We can't hear you. Are you here? I can see you.
How's that? You got to turn the mic on. Present.
That's
virtual, Evansville, Indiana.
Thank you. Board Member Andy Place Sr.
Present, remote.
Thank you. Board Member Chad Greiwe.
Present, remote.
Board Member Tom McGowan is not present today, correct? Correct. Okay. Moving right along. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 26, 2024 board meeting, which were provided to board members previously. Do we have any additions or corrections to make to the minutes? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Mark Pascarella, move to approve.
I'll be ready. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Oh, yes, and I will call the roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Abby Reddy.
Aye.
Michael Shopmeyer.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Chad Greiwe.
Aye.
Motion carries. I will now welcome Board Member Tom McGowan. No, we're happy to have you present and in the room for our minutes to reflect that. Thank you. Next up, please welcome Samantha Spergel, who will present the Homebuyer Award Recommendations, Affordable Home Matters, LLC Board Memo.
Thank you, Stephen. Has applied for an allocation of funding through the Home Investment Partnerships Program Homebuyer Program. They have requested $500,000 for the new construction of 4 units, all of which are in the city of Shelbyville, which is also a new city for us to work with on this program. I also want to note in the memo, it talks about our different training webinars that we did last year. We actually kicked off a 7-part training series this week and had over 35 people in attendance. So really exciting to see the interest in this program and the new applications that come in. So with that, I will pause and see if there are any questions.
Any questions from the board? Okay, we will hear your resolution.
Fantastic, thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve a homebuyer award in an amount not to exceed $500,000 to Affordable Home Matters LLC as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution before us. I will entertain a motion to approve.
Andy Place, motion to approve.
Second.
I'll be ready. Second.
We have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. All those you can voice your approval by saying aye. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Abby Reddy.
Aye.
Michael Shopmeyer.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Chad Greiwe.
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
And Valentine, aye. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank
Now
you.
up, Samantha is here to present the Homebuyer Award Recommendation, Brown County, Indiana Habitat for Humanity Board Memo.
Thank you, and don't say that 5 times fast.
Goodness
it is
gracious.
tricky. So again, very similar to the last board memo, this is a request for home buyer funding to Brown County, Indiana Habitat for Humanity for the new construction of one unit in Helmsburg, Indiana. This would be the third award that we will have allocated funds toward for Habitat of Brown County. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions from the board? I will entertain, oh no, we're going to hear your resolution
Oh,
first.
yes, thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Result that the board approve a home buyer award in an amount not to exceed $85,661 to Brown County, Indiana Habitat for Humanity Incorporated as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution before us. I will entertain a motion to approve.
Tom McGowan, move for approval.
We have a second.
Mike Schotmeyer, second.
We have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Bobby Reddy,
Aye.
Michael Shopmeyer,
Aye.
Andy Place,
Aye.
Chad Greiwe,
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samantha. Please welcome Alan Rakowski, who will present the Home Innovation Round RHO Apartments Board Memo.
Morning, Board. Thank you.
Morning.
So as mentioned, I'll be presenting the Home Innovation Round Award for RHO Apartments. I want to start a little bit on the process. It's been a little while since we brought one of these to you. In program year 2022, the Home Innovation Funds were set aside by IHCDA in partnership with FSSA Division of Mental Health and Addiction. The goal was to select up to 3 respondents to propose innovative affordable housing project that would create permanent supportive housing units for persons with co-occurring substance use disorder and mental illness. Respondents were also required for the primary applicant to be a certified CHODO and to partner with the community mental health center to serve as a primary supportive service provider. Each team would then be eligible to request up to $1.5 million in home funds, up to $500,000 in development fund, and a $50,000 CHODO operating supplement. Responses were due in January of 2022. Of 4 respondents, 3 were selected. Once those teams were selected, they were required to attend an intensive home project development training. Had several focuses of this focused on rental housing development, federal requirements, design, implementation of permanent housing with supportive services, as well as supplemental trainings on planning, rental sources, and subsidy laying requirements. Training sessions were offered over the summer and fall of 2022, and then after the completion of the training, the applicants were eligible to submit an application. On June 5th, we received the second application for this innovation round. It has a total development cost of $1,752,000. They're requesting $1,252,000 in home, a $500,000 development fund loan, and also CHODO operating. Affordable Housing Corporation of Marion, Indiana is proposing the new construction of 8 permanent supportive housing units in Marion. The supportive service provider is Radiant Health, which is also based out of Marion. The project consists of 2-bedroom duplex style units. Each unit has 2 zero-step entrances and will be designed to serve individuals with mobility, visual, and/or hearing impairments. On-site case management, service coordination, and connection to other services will also be available to residents. The project is in a good location of Marion, within a mile of the historic downtown district, as well as easy access to grocery, healthcare, and service amenities. So the recommendation today is for the home award in the amount of $1,252,000, $500,000 development fund loan, and $50,000 in CHODO operating supplement funding to the Affordable Housing Corp of Marion, Indiana. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
One question. So on the wraparound ongoing services, I assume that the Marion Group will not be responsible for the ongoing operating costs. Those will be provided by the various service providers, or how does the operating structure work?
Yeah, they'll work with the service providers to help fund those. So sometimes the service providers have access to funding that they can use for those. So we look at that as part of the application to see how those services will be covered. So a combination of, I think, some operating funds, but also funding that the service provider brings with them for those types of services.
Yeah, they bring the operating. Okay. Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, we'll hear your resolution.
Okay. Staff respectfully requests that the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve awarding $1,252,000 of home funds in the form of a grant, $500,000 in the development fund in the form of a loan, and $50,000 in CHODO operating supplement to the Affordable Housing Corporation of Marion, Indiana for RHO Apartments as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Tom McGowan, move for approval, and I'll just say we need more of these types of facilities around the state.
We have a
Andy
motion. Do we have a
Place,
second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Avi Reddy,
Aye.
Michael Shopmeyer,
aye,
Andy Place,
Aye.
Chad Greiwe,
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, the motion carries. Next up, you're going to present the board closing deadline for 2023 low-income housing tax credit program, 4% credits and bond volume with the Affordable and Workforce Housing Tax Credit Program and the Affordable Housing and Community Development Fund Board memo.
I want to win with the award for longest title, so.
I mean, it is the longest sentence I've
That
had to
is
read.
quite a title.
It is a doozy. Thank you.
All right, so as background on this, November of last year, the Board of Directors approved 10 developments in the 2023 funding round for 4% credits with bonds, along with the Affordable and Workforce Housing Tax Credit and the Development Fund. The board also approved a wait list that included 13 developments if the project could work without the state credits or if additional bond volume became available. The wait list expired on February 16th of this year, and with that wait list, we were able to fund 6 additional developments for funding through this round. These developments were approved under the 23-24 Qualified Allocation Plan. Within it has a closing deadline of 6 months after the date of board or IHCDA delegated approval. Within the QAP, it also mentions that if they fail to meet this closing deadline, they may request a 3-month extension and followed by an additional 3-month extension. So essentially you have 12 months total to close, 6 months in the QAP, which allows for 2 3-month extensions. As of the writing of this memo, 11 of the 16 approved projects had not yet closed on their bonds. So what we're doing today is recommending to allow additional time for projects that are near closing, but unable to meet the original deadline, additional time to do so. Staff's recommending a one-time amendment to the closing deadline provision in the 23-24 QAP and allow the 11 awarded projects in the Table A that have not closed a 45-day extension on their closing deadline. The complete list of projects are in the memo in Table A, along with the anticipated closing dates of each of those based on recent conversations we've had with the developers. Furthermore, with the possibility, even with this extension of projects not meeting the 45-day extension, the reserve funds would come back to IHCDA. So as we continue to review applications in our current funding round for the 2025 bond and state tax credits, what we're proposing to do is create a wait list that we'll present to the board next month. We'll bring our recommendations for 2025 bonds and state credits. We'd also bring a wait list that we would then bring to the board to have this fund, to have a wait list available if any of the funding in this table for any of these projects is returned to IHCDA. We'd have a wait list of projects that we've vetted, that we've looked, that we've reviewed, that met threshold and weren't on the final list or weren't going to be on the final list just for scoring reasons, not being as competitive. So that's a way that we would ensure that if any of this funding does come back, we have projects lined up to be able to utilize that funding. So again, what we're recommending today is a one-time amendment of the closing deadline provision in the 23-24 QAP to allow the 11 awarded projects a 45-day extension on their closing deadline as presented in the Table A. Be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question, Alan. What's causing some of the delays, and has this been something that's occurred in the past, or is this something new for us?
Yeah, there's a variety of reasons. Nothing that really stands out is out of the ordinary. So some examples are some of the projects have other funding, such as HUD funding, and going along with their due diligence process, that can prolong the process, and we see that fairly often. But overall, between 6 and 12 months is kind of the normal range that we see on bond deals closing, and these are all within that, are very close to that. A couple other considerations are that these applications were presented to us in June of 2023. That's when the applications were due July 1st. So essentially, these are numbers based on June 2023 data. So we expect that there may be some adjustments that happen over the course of due diligence after the awards are made. So developers look to fill gaps, or maybe there's some adjustments to numbers they have to make. Those are things that we expect to happen, that they take time to ensure that happens before they close. And then one additional thing I'll add is this is the first time we've made allocations with the state tax credits. So that's just a new source that lenders have to become familiar with, and I think just make sure that they have what they need on those state credits. So, but overall, what we've seen and what's encouraging is that when we've contacted the developers, you'll see a lot of them are actually still in line to meet the deadline. But we want to just ensure that those that they have a little bit of a buffer, and those that do need a little bit more time have time to complete the project, or at least to close fund the project.
Very good. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, what, couple other questions. One, I assume that your wait list is vibrant, because it seems like most multifamily developers that I've been talking to lately, just due to cost structures, cost of capital, all these various items, are finding this to be far more attractive. Some of the bigger names that maybe didn't play in this space have a lot more interest. So you give a little color on the wait list. I assume it's strong.
Yeah, so, in the current round, we have, I think we have 18 applications that we're reviewing in the current round. So you mean as far as the potential wait list?
Yeah, the wait list.
Yeah, so we have, there'll be a number of deals that'll be on that, because we have 18 applications. We're going to be able to recommend about 5 is what we expect
To be able to push up.
to be able to push up for recommendations. And what we see last year is typically most deals do pass threshold. They're deals that work, but for whatever reason, on scoring, you're just
Yeah.
not quite there. So I would anticipate we'll make 5 recommendations, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's as many as 10 to 12 on the wait list, just based on what we're seeing so far. So
Great. Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we will hear your resolution.
okay, staff respectfully requests that the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve a one-time amendment of the closing deadline provision in the 23-24 UAP to allow the 11 awarded projects a 45-day extension under closing deadline as presented in Table A.
All right, we have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
I'll be ready. Motion to approve.
Chad
Second.
Gray, second.
We have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Avi Reddy.
Aye.
Michael Shopmeyer,
aye,
Andy Place,
Aye.
Chad Greiwe,
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Please welcome Matt Rayburn, who will present the project-based voucher award for supportive housing Home Place Duets Board memo.
Thank you. Good morning, board. This will be the first of 3 memos that I have the pleasure of presenting this morning. So Home Place Duets may sound familiar to those of you who were at last month's board meeting. Just last month, the board approved the capital financing for this development. But as a quick refresher, this is a 6-unit consisting of 3 duplexes, new construction development in Carmel, being undertaken by the Hamilton County Area Neighborhood Development. That is a nonprofit Chodo partner up in Hamilton County. This group went through our 2022 Indiana Supportive Housing Institute to learn how to develop supportive housing to serve individuals experiencing homelessness, and subsequently applied for our Home Investment Partnerships American Rescue Plan, Home ARP program. They were the 9th of anticipated 10 teams to be funded through the Home ARP program. So again, last month you approved the capital funding. The request now is to get approval for the project-based rental assistance contract that will also be layered on those 6 units. Because the Home ARP program requires units to be serving individuals coming from literal homelessness into the units, we know these are households who are going to need assistance with paying the rent. So this will be a 20-year housing assistance payment contract through our project-based voucher program, so that the tenants, in addition to the supportive services that will be provided, also will be able to maintain the affordability on the units. So happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board?
Only just one comment, which is pretty neat. The new mayor of Carmel had us together, and it's great to see a fluent community like Carmel where thinking through items like this. So it's great to see that these programs can also try to address a community like that people may not think is an issue. In reality, it still is.
Yeah, appreciate those comments. We're certainly excited to see, this is, I believe, our first supportive housing effort in Hamilton County.
Yeah,
so acknowledging that there's homelessness issues in Hamilton County as well, and that
it's a good
folks are in need of supportive housing. So
Just-
we're excited that Hand is taking this on.
Just to add to that, someone who lives not in the zone, but like drives through it, like, this is a great, I think, opportunity and good to see it, like having lived in Carmel, I was a child, and add on
Yeah.
to that and what you've done with that committee and everything, so.
Thank you. Okay, we will hear your resolution.
Excellent, thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve an award of 6 project-based vouchers to Hamilton County Area Neighborhood Development, Inc. for Home Place Duets for a period of 20 years based on the annual small area fair market rents for the 46280 zip code of Hamilton County as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Bobby,
Andy
ready?
Place, motion to approve.
Bobby, ready, second?
We have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Bobby Reddy.
Aye.
Michael Shopmeyer.
aye,
Andy Place.
Aye.
Chad Grywey.
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Next, Matt is presenting the project-based voucher award for supportive housing Promise Home Board memo.
Yes, thank you. So another request to make a project-based voucher contract award to further supportive housing efforts. The slight difference with this one is just the timing, which I'll explain in a moment. So in this case, we're working with Echo Housing Corporation. Echo is based in the Jacobsville neighborhood in Evansville. This team completed the 2019 Indiana Supportive Housing Institute, and subsequently, the IHCDA Board of Directors approved capital funding for this project back in 2022. In this case, this project has since completed construction and is placed in service. So this is the slight timing difference from what you normally see. Traditionally, you see us bringing project-based voucher requests more like what just happened with Home Place Duets, either in conjunction at the same board meeting as the capital funding or at the very next meeting. In this case, it's a little bit different. So the HUD regulations require, we have 2 options, 2 different times we can place a project-based voucher contract onto a project. We can either do it before construction begins, or you can do it after construction is completed for what HUD calls an existing project. HUD does not allow us to put a project-based contract in place during the construction period. So in this case, the team, Echo, originally was intending to use a different rental assistance source. They worked with our Continuum of Care team to apply for some balance of state Continuum of Care funds. But based on the amount of funding we received from HUD that year and the way that HUD ranked our projects, this project unfortunately just did not quite make the cut. So Echo was left without that intended rental assistance source. Once that decision was made, we talked with them to say we can do project-based vouchers as a backup, but they had started construction, so we said we have to wait and do it on the back end to comply with the HUD regs. So this development, Promise Home, which consists of 27 one-bedroom units, actually placed in service, had their grand opening earlier this summer and have now moved in tenants. Because these are tenants coming straight out of homelessness into the units, they need project-based rental assistance. And now that the building has passed inspections, has a certificate of occupancy and is leased up, it meets that HUD definition of existing housing, and we can come in on the back end with a voucher contract now. So happy to answer any questions on this one.
Any questions or comments from the board? I would just comment that it's very impressive, the work that the IHCDA team does to make sure to find solutions when things don't maybe work out the way originally planned. So good to see that. We will hear your resolution.
Okay. Thank you. Staff respectfully requests that the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve an award of 27 project-based vouchers to Echo Housing Corporation for Promise Home for a period of 20 years based on the annual fair market rents for Vanderburgh County as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
move for approval, Mike Shopmeyer.
Mark
Andy
Pascarella,
Place, second.
second.
A motion and a second. I will call the roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Bobby Reddy.
Aye.
Michael Shopmeyer.
Aye,
Andy Place.
Aye.
Chad Grywey.
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion carries.
Thank you.
And the final part of the Matt Rayburn show is presenting the Indianapolis Low Barrier Shelter Board memo.
Indeed, thank you. All right, Tom's excited. So I'll explain a little bit more why in a moment. Well, first, let me just say, yes, so the project-based vouchers, thank you for approving those too. That's kind of a traditional part of business for us. But as you know, usually when I personally come to the board, it's something unusual is going on, some new exciting initiative, and that's kind of the case here. So I'm going to give a little more background here than I gave on the last 2 memos, which again are kind of more of our standard line of business. So back in 2022, the state legislature passed Indiana Code 5-20-10, establishing a low barrier homeless shelter task force. And while this was formalized through state legislation, the focus of this task force was to have the responsibility to look at what would it cost to build and to operate a low barrier homeless shelter in Indianapolis specifically. So this task force, once it was created by the legislation, met 7 times throughout calendar year 2022. I would acknowledge that our own board member, Tom, was one of the 2 co-chairs of that committee. And Jake was involved kind of at the start with that group, and then I stepped in and attended the final task force meetings to work with the group as well. So again, throughout 2022, that group met 7 times to analyze this data. In addition to the task force, invited a number of experts and guests to come in and meet. These were all public meetings as well that were made available for the public to view. So at the end of that, the task force then, as led by Tom and Jeff Bennett, who was the other co-chair, came forward and prepared a final report in December of 2022, which was presented to the governor and the legislative council. Based on the recommendations of that final report, which talked about what a low barrier shelter in Indianapolis may look like, what types of costs would be incurred, what funding may be needed, that task force then was instrumental in influencing the state legislature in 2023 to include in the 2023 to 2025 biennial budget, which was passed in 2023, a $20 million line item to create a low barrier homeless shelter grant program. That $20 million came to IHCDA, and our charge was to support the recommendations of the task force by funding the establishment of a low barrier homeless shelter in Indianapolis. So I'm going to pause here and talk just a little bit about what we're talking about and why we keep saying low barrier shelter instead of just shelter. Part of the charge of the task force was to look at the current shelter system in Indianapolis, not to poke holes at it or to demean the work they do in any way, but to identify what maybe is the existing shelter system not doing, what needs to be different. And one of the main things here was found that the shelters in Indianapolis that currently operate, while very important, are not operating on what would be considered a low barrier methodology. So by low barrier, the National Alliance to End Homelessness is kind of the national expert on this. That is what the task force adopted, was their definition. So low barrier includes things like 24/7 access to the shelter. It's not that I have to get there a certain time or the doors close. I can come and go from the shelter. That there are no entry requirements to the shelter. So the shelter will not turn away individuals based on income, based on sobriety or lack of sobriety at the time of entrance. That services will be offered at the shelter in addition to just shelter beds, and that in this low barrier model, really metrics will be tracked to look at not just outputs of how many people are there, but trying to look at outcomes of return to homelessness and ultimately hoping that the shelter will provide direct housing navigation so that individuals exiting the shelter exit into housing situations. So with this background, once we received that $20 million in the budget last summer, we went to work on figuring out how to design this program and we started having immediate conversations with the city of Indianapolis about their readiness to proceed. The city, of course, needed a little time to put together their plans, to compile the team. So we worked hand in hand with them throughout this process. Realized they were ready to go. So this fall on September 16th, we released a request for proposals, putting out the opportunity to apply for these $20 million grant. Responses were due on September 30th, and as expected, we received one response to the RFP from the city of Indianapolis. So let me talk about the team just a little bit here. The city of Indianapolis itself has applied as the lead applicant. They will be the grant administrator responsible for claiming the funds from us, overseeing the administration of that $20 million. And then ultimately, they will actually also be the owner of the land and the building itself. The grant administration will happen through the city's Office of Health and Safety, and then they're bringing in the city's building and facility administration to handle the maintenance and management of the building. However, the city can't do this all on their own, so they have identified a number of other partners. The two key partners in this work will be Aspire and Horizon House. Aspire is a certified community mental health center that can provide a number of behavioral, mental health, physical health services to residents at the shelter. And Horizon House is kind of one of the lead homelessness service provider nonprofits in Indianapolis. So they bring a lot of experience in working with the population and providing necessary services. So that's kind of the core team there. So as we think about that core team, I'll explain a little bit more about the proposed design of the shelter. So this is going to be a large facility. It's proposed as a 63,000 square foot building in Indianapolis that will provide 24/7 shelter access at no cost to clients. And it's a 4-story structure, and each of the stories will have somewhat of a different purpose. So the first floor of this structure, which they're kind of calling the combined 4 floors a housing hub, which includes the shelter, but other services as well. So the first floor of this hub is the day center. So this will be operated by Horizon House, who currently operates a smaller day center in Indianapolis, but will expand into this space. So the day center is where individuals who just need somewhere to stay safe with a roof over their head during the day hours can come in, get some services, access a food pantry. There will also be a cafeteria serving meals on the first floor. The second floor space will be the administrative offices of the service providers, the housing navigation center, where individuals will be connected with services to help them apply for rental assistance vouchers and to get connected with landlords and potential units to end their homelessness. There will also be an employment lab to help individuals with resume building, applying for jobs, et cetera. So this second floor will include not only space for Horizon House as that kind of service provider, but they're also looking at this. This was part of the task force recommendation to look at this kind of one-stop shop model of how do we identify what all services individuals may need while they're here. So there's intended to be space for the Marion County Public Health Department to provide health services, shots, immunizations, et cetera. The Bureau of Motor Vehicles will be operating there, at least on a part-time basis, to provide individuals with help getting identification, et cetera, which sometimes is a barrier to accessing housing. And then Home Now Indy and other homeless and health service providers will operate out of that space as well. And then last but not least, the third and fourth floors of this building will be the shelter space itself, which will be operated by Aspire. And the interesting thing about this shelter is twofold. In addition to the low barrier model, they are also doing what's called non-congregate shelter, which has really kind of become the emerging best practice in shelters. So a traditional shelter setting is what would be classified as congregate, big rooms with individuals with beds or cots, multiple people in a large space. A non-congregate shelter is almost more like a hotel motel. So everyone coming into the shelter will actually have a private space with a door they can close, which in addition to just, some additional dignity and privacy, this allows couples and families to stay together, which the reality is in most congregate shelters are gender restricted. So sometimes couples and families are split up within shelters because they can't sleep in the same space. But if you have a private small room and a door, you can keep those family units together. So the design to make sure it can serve households of a variety of sizes, there will be 20 family pods, each with 4 beds per pod, 10 couple pods, each with 2 beds per pod, and then 50 single pods for individuals entering the shelter for a total of 150 beds spread across the 3rd and the 4th floors. So with that, I'll wrap up my conversation here and then turn it over to Tom to share what he would like to by just quickly talking about the costs here. So on the capital side, we have received the initial capital budget, and I've had the chance to review through that and ask some questions back of the city. The proposed total development cost is $32 million. $20 million of that will be covered by the IHCDA grant. The balance, $12 million, will be funded through the city of Indianapolis through a grant that they are using as well. And the city has already identified the site, obtained necessary zoning, et cetera. So that is all that IHCDA will be funding. Our $20 million is exclusive to getting this 63,000 square foot hub built. The operating budget has been provided to us so that we could look at it and ask questions, but we are not part of paying for the annual operations, either of the true just management or of the services. They are proposing, this is a big undertaking, a $10.4 million annual operating budget, which covers all staffing, the supportive services to be provided to tenants, food service, so that cafeteria providing meals, security for the building, the maintenance, utilities, insurance, equipment, and supplies, et cetera. So this budget will be covered approximately 35% by a commitment from the city to just put an ongoing line item in the city's budgets to cover these costs. The remaining roughly 65% will be covered by a mix of philanthropic and corporate contributions, including contributions from the service providers themselves. So those service providers will use their funding streams, Medicaid where they can, other funding streams to cover the services. So while we have had the chance to look at that operating budget and service budget, it is not something that we will. So with that, I will pause. Tom, I'm not sure as the task force co-chair, if you had any comments you wanted to share before we go into questions.
Sure, I'll make a few comments. First of all, you did a excellent job describing all this because there was a lot of work that went in. I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank Jake as well because you guys both played having people like corrections and all things that people don't think about as the source of homelessness. So that was awesome. I think we should also thank, as we're lobbying in the State House, over at the House, just in being the speaker with Wade Bray on the Senate side. I mean, these guys were with us. It got really dicey at the end on the 20 million, but we got it in there, which was great. And I think it's very important for IHCDA to understand that hopefully this is not the first time not the last time you will sit up here and talk about it, because our goal is if we can kick ass with this facility, which I really hope we can, and we're successful, really want to go back and do it in Evansville, do it in Fort Wayne, do it in South Bend, on and on. We want to take the same model and get this accomplished throughout the state. And if we do a great job, I think we're going to be successful with that because we're going to show the impact. And you did a great job talking about low barrier. You know, if someone has schizophrenia or someone is, you know, heavily inebriated, there's nowhere for these people to go. See someone with schizophrenia doing circles in a parking lot, there is nowhere. So we're hoping that this is going to be the solution to that, and then get them directed to the right place. The other thing that's key about this is we got CICP involved, which has been awesome, Melina Kennedy. So we got a lot of the top CEOs in Central Indiana involved, raising money for the wraparound services, which you guys know is so important. And so that money is being raised. And then fortunately, the governor's office put me on the new downtown taxing district board and try to do what I can do to make sure some of the allocated money goes to this facility to make sure we're operating at a high level. So the big thing I wanted to stress is a lot of people got involved. The city putting in 12 million. Dan Parker, everybody is very supportive along with the mayor. But let's talk about someday we're going to be back here for another city, because every city needs it. Guarantee it. Every single city of size needs this, and a lot of them even smaller size that we talked about earlier in the day needed. So I want to congratulate everyone that worked on this on your side. You did a great job. Now we got to get the thing built, and we got to operate and make a big difference.
Thanks, Tom. And yeah, just for the rest of the board, I would confirm what Tom was saying, right? That the task force was charged with looking at this specifically in Indianapolis and looking at this as a pilot. Since that money was authorized in the budget, and then especially since we put out the RFP, Jake and I have certainly both fielded calls from other cities and other nonprofits saying, is there any way we can apply under this RFP, or is more money coming? And unfortunately for now, we've had to tell them no, but that yes, we see this really as being kind of we see it as being a pilot project, and that while this effort was specific for Indianapolis, that certainly IHCDA would be willing to administer future state funds to do similar builds.
Great. Well, with that, we will hear your resolution.
All right, thank you. All right, staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve $20 million from the Low Barrier Homeless Shelter Grant Program in the form of a grant to the city of Indianapolis for the development of a low barrier shelter as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Tom McGowan, move for approval.
Andy Place,
second.
We have a motion and a couple of seconds. I will call the roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Bobby Reddy.
Absolutely. Aye.
Michael Schopmeyer.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Chad Greiwe.
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Resounding aye.
Ann Valentine, aye. Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good job.
Good work. Next up, Greg Glassley, who will present the Energy Assistance Program Assurance 16 Awards Board Memo, not bond memo, board memo. Thank you.
Good morning, board. Thank you.
morning.
I appreciate it. So a little background on this. So in the federal LIHEAP statute, there are 16 assurances. So what that means is any recipient basically we are going to responsibly make sure these funds get out to the right people. Specifically, assurance number 16 is it's to promote energy education, self-sufficiency, activities that really lead to improvements with households in those case management, family development, those types of things. That allows us the option to allocate up to 5% of our total award for those activities. And traditionally, we allow all 20 subrecipients that 5%. And then historically, we end up spending about 3.5% annually on that. And so we want to do it a little bit differently this year. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, LIHEAP funding has gone back to kind of pre-COVID levels. And so we want to make sure that we are most effectively spending these funds. And then we also want to make sure that the allowable activities under A16, that those are really happening. And so through monitoring, through talking to agencies, we felt like going to an application, a competitive application, would be best way to get to that place. So in early June, we announced to the executive directors and our 20 existing subrecipients that we would go to an application process. Those were due about 2 months later, the beginning of August. We had 17 subrecipients submit an application. We did confirm with the 3 that did not submit one that was indeed their intent. Because at the end of the day, we really wanted everybody who applied to get money. We just wanted to make sure that the activities they were proposing were within the bounds of the allowable activities. And one of the things that we haven't done a great job of is measuring the outcomes of the energy education. So that is another thing we wanted to work with these. So we feel really good about the plans. We had a group of three of us who went through and reviewed all these plans, and then we worked with every agency on what exactly is your plan, how are you going to measure. So worked with them just to make sure they understood what we were looking for and how we could then report back up to Health and Human Services. So in Table A is the list of the 17 agencies that submitted an application. Their initial amount they requested is listed there, and then the amount proposed column is what we're proposing to give them. And that's based on, again, conversations that we had with every agency. We also looked at the average 5-year spend of each agency on A16 activities plus their 5-year high to see if that was in line with what they traditionally do based on what their application kind of said they would do. So, and then listed here, the counties they serve, and then there's a map as well that kind of shows. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, we will hear your resolution.
Staff respectfully request the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve LIHEAP Assurance 16 funding to subrecipients as set forth in Table A as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Tom McGowan, move for approval.
Do we have a second?
I'll be ready. Second.
We have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Avi Reddy.
Aye.
Michael Schottmeyer.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Chad Greiwe.
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Next, Greg's going to present the weatherization program update.
Okay, yeah, so this is just an update, no resolution coming. A couple things, just October's Energy Awareness Month. Next Wednesday is National Weatherization Day, so it's just a good opportunity to lift up this program and why it's so important. So just a couple of high-level overview of what the program is. So it's funded by Department of Energy. Its main core is energy efficiency. So how do we make homes more energy efficient for low-income households so we can reduce their energy bills? The second piece of that program is health and safety. So certainly the things that we do to a home have to leave it in at least as healthy and at least as safe a condition. Hopefully we can make it better, but those are the two core elements of the weatherization program. And one of the reasons it's so important is just low-income households carry a much larger energy burden. Typically, about 14% of their income goes to energy cost, as opposed to about 3% for other households. So these improvements have really tremendous impact, especially when you combine that with rising energy cost. So some of the measures that we call them that are done to a home that occur most frequently attic and wall insulation, air sealing. The biggest things, we want to keep the warm air inside and the cold air outside. So those two things, while not overly visible, are two of the most powerful things that can be done to a home to help with energy efficiency. Certainly, water heaters, furnaces, the repair and replacement of those to upgrade those to more efficient units, and then ventilation improvements. So I mentioned the health and safety. We want to make sure that we're leaving that so the airflow is the way it needs to be to make sure the air inside the home is safe and healthy. And on average, the weatherization activities save households about $375 annually. And when I say that, a lot of these measures that we do have useful lifetimes of 15, 20, 25, 30 years. So installing some of these one time has savings for decades. And so it's a really powerful impact on these homes. And since 2022, Indiana has weatherized a little under 1,800 units. So just a few updates on this past year. We underwent a software change. So that's been a dramatic sea change. So none of the team is here, but a tremendous thank you to the team for building basically a brand new software system, training, implementing. It went live October 1st, just a few weeks ago. It is a change from a software that was basically a reporting. People entered numbers in there and we pulled data out. This new system is a complete project management system. So it is fundamentally complete opposite of what it has been. And so they can, our agencies can start with intake. They can take applications. They can determine eligibility. There's an energy modeling software that every home goes through. That can be done through this system as it connects to the software. We can set schedules. We can set energy audit. We can set QCI dates. We can do the reporting. So it is really a one-stop shop that's going to create tremendous efficiencies for the network. The other piece that this has is an app. So whereas we're in these people's homes and we're taking measurements and we're taking all this information, they can do all of this information. They can do all of it in the person's home, as opposed to having to bring it all back and enter it in. So it's been like I said, a dramatic change, and it'll continue to go on. But that's been probably the biggest change this program year. And I want to highlight some of the funding levels, just as an awareness. So the program year is April 1 through March 31st of any given year. So funding levels for program year 23 and 24 stayed the same. So about 9.6 million. Of that, included in that is 850,000 in weatherization readiness funds. What those are, and those have only been available for 3 years through DOE. The weatherization assistance program is not construction. And so our core is that energy efficiency. So there are a lot of things that we encounter in a house that we can't fix, and therefore we have to walk away from it. And it's unfortunate. Those readiness funds have allowed us to then fix some of those things. And ultimately, a home that we would have had to walk away from, we've been able to get it out of deferral, do the work to where they've actually been weatherized. So that's really been a fantastic tool. We expect those to remain in the upcoming years, because it's only been around for 3 years. And then you see program year 22 was 8.7 million, and a little bit less than half in readiness funds. And then I mentioned the average cost per unit in there. That is something set by Department of Energy. So they tell us, you guys, across all the units you weatherize, you have to stay under this spend. So we're not allowed to go fix everything and do anything. We've got to stay within that pocket. So what it means from 23 to 24, the average cost per unit has gone up. The funding has stayed the same. So we expect then that to kind of impact the number of units we weatherize, and that's all right though. And in the bipartisan infrastructure law, that gave Indiana up to $90 million, an additional $90 million to spend on weatherization. So you see the years there, July 1, 22 through June 30th of 27. And I'll talk more about that here in a little bit. But all that to say, there's a lot of funding available for weatherization. So this graph is completions by fund by year. The first thing I'll note is the orange is 2024. We are halfway through that year. So nothing to be too alarmed at. Those numbers are down. We still have half a year to go. I will say the 14 on the left, I want to highlight that. So that's LIHEAP capital intensive jobs. So what that means is on those jobs, only LIHEAP dollars were used to weatherize it. And so the fact that that number has gone from 361 to 249 to 14 is very, very positive. Because that means, I mentioned with kind of reduced LIHEAP funding levels, more homes are getting DOE dollars. So that is a good thing. And we've made a conscious effort to try to steer that away. The readiness column on the far right, as you can see, we've gotten almost 300 homes out of deferral. So that's what I mentioned, those readiness funds. So those are 300 homes that before 2022, we would not have been able to weatherize. So that's been a fantastic pot of money to have. This is our bill production. And so on this graph, so the June 23, June 24, that's the end of that program year. The numbers above the line, that is the number of units that we estimated to DOE that we would complete by that time. The way the funding works, so the total amount is 90.4 million. We have received 45.2 million of that. So once we weatherize 30% of our estimated number of units, then we receive the last 50%. So that green line represents about 1,770 units. That's where, when we hit that number, that's when we get the rest of our award. And we are currently slightly behind. June 24, we had 665 units as the estimate. We're just under 600 right now. But that's where that stands. We still have time. So behind a little bit for sure, but we fully anticipate being able to hit those benchmarks. And so I just want to give a bunch of numbers. I want to put some context and references that compares to the national average. So here for the bill, you can see is nationally 6% of estimated completions are done, and 7.3% of total bill funds have been expended nationally. So in Indiana, we are at 9.5% of completions and 8.4% of expenditures. So admittedly work to do, and we're confident we'll get there, but this is as it relates to the national kind of comparison. And in regular program year 23, nationally, 38% of estimated units have been weatherized, 51% of the total funds expended. In Indiana, we're at 64% of target on the units and at 77% of target on the expenditure of funds. And that was the updates. Happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions from the
I
board?
just had one educational question. So I assume that you have to own the unit. So if I had a rental property and I had someone of low income status, I could, as a landlord, apply for it on behalf of. I've never asked the question. I'm curious how that works. But if a certain person had 10 rental properties, wasn't necessarily taking care of them, are they getting this by qualifying the fact that they have a low income person? And I'm not causing trouble. I'm just
no, not at all.
I'm just curious how it works.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a fair question. It's one too that we'll get battles on both sides.
I know.
So yes is the short answer. The people living there, the renters would be the people that apply. And so if they
So
are
the renter applies, not the land.
correct,
That was my big question. Okay.
correct. It's going to depend a little bit. So the way Department of Energy looks at buildings, so a single family is one thing. If it's a duplex, triplex, quadplex,
Right.
it's still considered single family.
I see.
Once it gets if the building is between 5 and 24 units, they consider that low rise multifamily, which then requires some additional things. And if it's over 24 units, then that's considered large multifamily. And so one of the things with Bill we're trying to do is get into more large buildings, because renters, especially if they're paying their own bills, have every right to this, they should be eligible for this program, and they are. When utilities are not, or when utilities are included in rent, it gets a little bit different, because then, who gets the benefit, right?
It's complicated.
And so DOE, so the household, the people living there apply. The landlord does have to sign off saying, that they won't increase rent based on the work done. Market conditions are market conditions.
Based on
but
gross rent. Yeah.
right, but hey, based on you got a new furnace, you got this, I'm gonna bump rate. You can't do that. So the landlord does have to sign off that they won't increase rent based on the work that was done. And then for Department of Energy purposes, we just have to, basically it's called an accrual of benefits, to ensure that the person living there does get some of the benefit. And some of it, even if they don't, certainly if they pay the utilities themselves, there's an obvious benefit because their bills are going to decrease.
Yeah.
If those utilities include rent, that's where it's like, well, wait a minute, what is the benefit to them? And a lot of it is that comfortable living situation. You know, I mean, are they comfortable? Are they still in that world? Like I said, they're low income based. They have every right to the program, but there are a couple of steps that are additional.
That's good. You're dealing with the gross rent because that is definitely.
Yeah.
Tank.
And
That's exactly what I was looking for.
yeah, and real quick, just to follow on that, when we do get into the low rise and the large multifamily, and we're going to put out some things in January to RFP, kind of a pilot building. But one of the things that DOE offers on that is for the landlord then to put in some money. And so there's a lot of things.
Contribution percentage.
Correct, that will go towards some of the work that can be done. The way it works, so we get the energy modeling software. In order to use DOE dollars, the savings, it's a cost benefit. So windows are a big thing that come up. We don't do windows because they're cost prohibitive. They're energy efficient, they help, but the cost of them, it just, that cost of benefit is going to be less than one. So what a lot of times what landlords can do is say, well, wait a minute, if I put in $5,000 or $10,000, it'll increase that, what's called the savings to investment ratio, SIR. It'll bump that up to what the necessary 1.0 or greater. So there's opportunities on that side as well. And that's one of the things with bill money we're get into.
It's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day. And now please welcome Richard Harcourt, who will present the Emerson Place bond recommendation. We get a lot of Richard today. Looking forward to this. It's all good, all good.
Madam Chair and Board, good morning. I've got 5 memos requesting issuance of a tax exempt indebtedness. Actually, 3 of them do that. 2 you have already seen, but all 5 of these projects are on the list of 11 that you approved for Allen earlier for an extension. All 5 of these come from our November 23 AB round. And so I'm going to start with the first 3, which are all just requests for tax exempt issuance, and then we'll talk a little bit about changes in the back too. But Madam Chair, as you referenced, we're going to start at Emerson Place, which is Emerson Avenue here in Indianapolis, 144 units. It's new construction, multifamily, AMI of 60%. Again, you all approved this in November of 23, and the request is the ability to issue $26,400,000 of tax exempt indebtedness. Of course, we're the issuer. This is not on our balance sheet. This is non-recourse to IHCDA.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Remind me on the developer.
The developer on this is CRF and Emerson Place.
Okay, we'll hear your resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve the Series 2024 multifamily housing revenue notes, parentheses, Emerson Place project, close parentheses, pursuant to the resolution attached here to as Exhibit A as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Mark Pascarella. Bobby Reddy, second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll call the roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Bobby Reddy.
Aye.
Michael Schottenmeier.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Chad Brywe.
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Next, the Capital Station bond recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're going to stay in Indianapolis, but we're going to go a little south to Madison Avenue. This is 50 units. It's rehab. It's senior living, age restricted, 80 AMI and under. Again, you all approved this in the 2023 bond round. We're requesting $7,500,000 of tax exempt issuance authority. Again, non-recourse, not on our balance sheet.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll hear your resolution.
Thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve the Series 2024 multifamily housing revenue bonds, parentheses, Capital Station project, close parentheses, pursuant to the resolution attached hereto as Exhibit A and as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Mark Pascarella.
Tom McGowan, second.
We have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Avi Reddy,
Aye.
Michael Schottmeyer,
Aye.
Andy Place,
Aye.
Chad Greiwe,
Aye.
Tom McGowan,
Aye.
and Valentine. Aye. Motion carries. Third up, the Sunrise Crossing bond recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're going to leave Madison Avenue in Indianapolis and go to Madison, Indiana. New construction, multifamily, 96 units, 80 AMI or less, again approved in the 2023 AB round document, requesting approval to issue $12,120,000 of tax exempt debt issuance where we're the issuer, non-recourse, not on our balance sheet.
Any questions? Seeing none, we will hear your resolution.
Thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve the Series 2024 multifamily housing revenue bonds, parentheses, residences at Sunrise Crossing Project, close parentheses, pursuant to the resolution attached hereto as Exhibit A and is recommended by staff.
We have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Mark Pascarella.
I'll be ready. Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll call the roll. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Avi Reddy,
Aye.
Michael Schottmeyer,
Aye.
Andy Place,
Aye.
Chad Greiwe,
Aye.
Tom McGowan,
Aye.
and Valentine. Aye. Motion carries. Now, the 837 bond recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the next two are a little different. They did come from the 2023 AB bond round. You all have already approved both of these, and what we're asking for is just for a change in the debt structure, their financing structure. They want to change their long-term finance structure to give them a little bit more flexibility in terms of closing. Nothing else has changed. 837 Lofts project is in Shelbyville, Indiana. You approved it for tax exempt issuance in April of 24. $17,005,000 of tax exempt non-recourse financing. This is 138 units, 60% AMI.
Any questions?
What is the change in the structure?
We're going from really from an MTEB, a bond structure, to a private placement with a bank. It really has given them flexibility in their closing date and their draw date. It's once, as you know, Mark, once you sell bonds, you're tied to a closing date. Both of them are. Second structure is a little bit different, but they're both MTEB going to a more flexible private placement.
This is TWG, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we will hear your resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry. My turn again.
I know. I mean, I get confused with you because I bungle it so many times, but I think we need to hear your resolution.
I agree. Thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve the Series 2024 multifamily housing revenue notes, parentheses, Emerson Place project. On the right one?
Nope.
Nope.
Back it up. Start over.
Hang on.
We're on 837.
I'm getting ahead of myself. I
That's okay.
apologize. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve the change in debt structure, parentheses, 837 Lofts project, close parentheses, pursuant to the resolution attached hereto as Exhibit A and is recommended by staff.
We have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Mark Pascarella.
I'll be ready. Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll call the roll. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Avi Reddy,
Aye.
Michael Schottmeyer,
Aye.
Andy Place,
Aye.
Chad Greiwe,
Aye.
Tom McGowan,
Aye.
and Valentine. Aye. Motion carries. And now you're going to wrap us up with the Turtle Creek North bond recommendation.
Try to stay on the same project, Madam Chair. Back to Indianapolis. This one you approved in May of 24. Again, it was out of the November 23 AB round. Again, it's just a change in the capital stack to a private placement for more flexibility. This one is in Indianapolis, 317 units, 262 are rehab, 55 are new. Multifamily, 50 to 60% AMI, requesting a change for a project that has $28 million of tax exempt non-recourse financing, not on our sheet.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, we will hear your resolution.
Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve the Series 2024 multifamily housing revenue notes, parentheses, Turtle Creek North Flats project, close parentheses, pursuant to the resolution attached hereto as Exhibit A and as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Mark Pascal, move to approve.
Tom McGowan, second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll call the roll. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Avi Reddy.
Aye.
Michael Schottmeyer,
Aye.
Andy Place,
Aye.
Chad Grywey,
Aye.
Tom McGowan,
Aye.
and Valentine, aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have an update from our executive director.
Just a few updates here. We're in October, obviously, the Energy Assistance Program. We heard an update from Greg on weatherization. Our Energy Assistance Program, which is administered by the community action agencies across our state, we've opened up the portal, so applications are coming in now. And so I just want to mention it because, as we start to transition into the heating season, the importance for folks to receive assistance, especially low-income households, on their utility bills. So, so far everything seems to be going pretty well, even though it was just opened up just this month. So, but I just want to make sure that the board was aware that the EAP program is up and going. So, the other update I want to provide. I want to thank Samantha Spurgel and Abby Church. There was an opportunity for us to apply for funding to remove barriers to housing. And this is a program called Pro Housing 2.0. And we looked at different opportunities that IHCDA could take a lead on to support removing barriers. IHCDA was not an eligible applicant to apply for these funds. So we partnered with the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs. And the barrier that we're proposing to address is childcare. So what we have proposed is that $7 million to build out childcare facilities at our affordable housing properties. So there's definitely a connection between childcare and housing stability. And so I'm just really proud of the partnership that we have with Okra, and Samantha and Abby taking the lead on pulling this together and all the research that they did. I don't know if we're going to get funded or not, but I'm really proud of us really thinking creatively and trying to remove barriers to housing, especially for low and moderate households. So more to come on that as we learn if we're successful or not. So, yeah. This time of year, we have a couple of committee meetings from the board. And so we have an audit committee meeting set for tomorrow. And this will be limited to discussions of internal audits and will be held as an executive session closed to the public. So I just want to make sure that our board's aware of that and the audit committee. And then the annual budget committee and the audit committee meetings will start to take place in December. And those meetings will be open to the public. So I just want to make sure that the board's aware of those. And we are actively right now pulling together, as you know, IHCDA is on a calendar budget. So Brennan and our accounting team, and we've been meeting to pull together our budget for next year. So but those audit and budget committee meetings are soon. So two other things just real quick. A few years ago, seems like yesterday, but I think it was like, 2018 or something like that, where we really became intentional on developing affordable rental housing for persons with intellectual disabilities. We created a set aside. We had a very special round to support developers and being innovative and developing these units. Our team has done just an amazing job of pulling this together. I also have to say that our developers across our state who do business in Indiana really understand the importance of creating units that target some of our most vulnerable populations. And they just do an outstanding job. So with all of that being said, IHCDA was recognized earlier this month at the National Council for State Housing Authorities or agencies for their excellence in affordable housing, specifically for special needs populations. And so I brought the award. I just want to make sure that the board was aware of this.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so thank you. Yep.
Fantastic.
Then lastly, we have 2 more board meetings for the rest of this year. The next one is November 21st at 10 a.m. here at IHCDA. We'll be in the same room, the Capitol room here. And then on December 19th, we're going on the road. We're going to Evansville. We'll be at the Fresh Start facility. It will be at 10 a.m. Central.
Yeah, Michael Schottmeyer better be there in person for that one.
Yes. So 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. So just remember, if you're traveling down, you're gaining an hour, but don't take that for granted. So, anyway, so that's December 19th. So that's my update for this month.
Great. Is there any other business to come before the board?
We have several resolutions, so we'll be passing those around. And for those of you virtually, be looking for those this afternoon.
Thank you.
And
Seeing-
I'll just
yes?
add one thing. I just think Tom should be recognized for his work with the board agenda item we did earlier. I think having the combination of him on the board and working to help that situation, I think is tremendous. It's not just.
And I don't think it would have happened, the money would have happened without your work ahead of
thank you.
time. So kudos to that.
I just think it should be formally recognized.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other business to come before the board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Who are you?
Mark Pascoe.
Tom McGowan.
That's
second.
checked.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned as of 11:14. Thank you.